Hi everybody, it's Sid from Cool Movie Gram, your source for everything about cool movies. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, like the videos, and leave your comments. This will push my videos into the algorithm and it will help a lot. First of all, this is it's quite great because I'm almost close to my next target, which is 250 followers. 2.5 months ago, I was on about only 100, and it just kind of seems to have increased as time went on. And I thank you very much. I will be doing a giveaway of just a box of some DVDs and whatnot to someone once I get to that 250 mark. So I'm almost there. Just keep on pushing, and it will hopefully there'll be more giveaways that will follow. I mean, this is my target. Okay, to get to the 1,000 that I need to get to actually kind of be some sort of start off as a small but growing YouTuber. I mean, I need to get to 1,000, but of course I've targeted myself my next target, which is 250, which I've almost reached. Then after that it's 500, then 750, and then 1,000. Then from there it's going to be 1,500 to 2,000, then 2,500 to 3,000, so on and so forth, to get around about 10,000. Then work my way up if I can to 100,000. That would be really nice. I'll keep on putting out these videos as long as you guys keep on liking it and subscribing to my channel. Right. Now to the point in being, now this is the third video in my top 50 action movies, covering films 40 to 36. This is the third installment in my list of videos. So, okay, without further ado, let's get started. Number 40 is Speed, 1994, the US movie directed by Jan de Bont, starring Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper, and Jeff Daniels. Right, this movie, it marked the directorial debut of Jan de Bont, who was actually a cinematographer who shot many films, most notably his work in the movies like Die Hard, which was very kind of impressive. He was the cinematographer for that film, and also Ridley Scott's Black Rain, which I would think that it was actually one of the best shot movies ever. I mean, again, it was just the visuals were so great, the cinematography, the camera work and everything was just amazing, like with most Ridley Scott films, because he's a very visual filmmaker. And he's known normally to be working with Paul Verhoeven, because he was the original director that was attached to Black Rain before it got taken over by Ridley Scott, because according to Verhoeven, it was taking too long to actually to develop. So he kind of moved on to do Total Recall, and then Ridley Scott stepped in, and he did a pretty decent job of that. Then Jan de Bont made his directorial debut with this film, Speed. And of course, Keanu Reeves stars as a police officer who will stop a bus which is rigged with a bomb that if it goes below a certain speed, it will blow up. And of course you have the cute but perky Sandra Bullock as a passenger that ends up kind of falling for the police officer, and it's just on the way. It's just full of really great action set pieces. And originally this was supposed to have been a film starring Jeff Speakman from the movie Perfect Weapon and Halle Berry, and it was supposed to have actually been a lot more different because Jeff Speakman is a Kempo karate expert, and he would have actually had more fight scenes in the movie, just like he did in his other few movies that he has done throughout in his short career. But that would have been a great vehicle for him. But I think this was a great vehicle for Keanu Reeves. This was kind of just after Point Break, which was also the first movie that I covered in my last video. So there's another video covering another Keanu Reeves movie to begin with. And yeah, that would have actually had like, well, Jeff Speakman, Halle Berry, and it would have had like him going off the bus and having fight scenes throughout the movie. It would have been a completely different movie. But then by the time it got developed, Keanu Reeves was cast, and this kind of like pushed him more toward the action movies. This is one of his more successful movies. And again, visually it's great. I mean, Jan de Bont, he has done somewhat a spotty filmography, but as a directorial debut, Speed was just pure popcorn entertainment, full of explosions, great car stunts, vehicular stunts, and it's just shot really well. And even on repeat viewings, it's just a very entertaining film. '39 is Hard Target, 1993, a US movie directed by John Woo, starring Jean-Claude Van Damme, Yancy Butler, Lance Henriksen, and Arnold Vosloo. A woman named Nat, who gets a French-speaking sailor with a heavy Belgian accent called Chance to help her look for her dad, and then kind of get embroiled in a game where a powerful criminal named played by Lance Henriksen and his henchman Arnold Vosloo, who are kind of recruiting these poor people to actually go on the run, whilst rich people kind of hunt them like animals. And if they make it to the end, and they win a lot of money, but Van Damme kind of like Chance decides to shut this down. And this was actually John Woo's first Hollywood movie. His last movie in Hong Kong was Hard Boiled, and then this was his kind of his first movie, which was originally written for Kurt Russell to play the lead role, but he was tied up with another project, so it went to Jean-Claude Van Damme, because he was actually a growing star at the moment, hot off the heels from the success of films such as Double Impact and Universal Soldier. He kind of it was kind of known that Hard Target would have been a perfect vehicle for him. I know there was a lot of clashes between John Woo wanting to shoot it one way, and then also the studio Universal trying to kind of curb John Woo and not let him kind of like have like a ridiculously high body count and overly bloody action sequences the way that his Hong Kong movies have had. And but luckily, for some reason, Sam Raimi was brought in by Universal to actually kind of, as a producer, to keep an eye on John Woo, so he doesn't just go overboard. But being that Sam Raimi was actually a huge fan of John Woo's films from before, he said that he wanted to make sure that even though this is a Hollywood movie, he wanted to be the best, most John Woo type of Hollywood movie. Which, I mean, a lot of the cinematography is very similar to like his films, like Hard Boiled, Bullet in the Head, and even somewhat The Killer and the A Better Tomorrow movies. It was very kind of like, the action was very kind of like ballistic at the same time. There's a lot of use of slow-mo and doves and whatnot, and you got these henchmen on motorcycles and some great kind of stunts too. And yeah, this was, I would say, I mean, in my opinion, this is probably the strongest film that Jean-Claude Van Damme has in his resume. Not exactly the best John Woo film, it's just still a hell of a lot of fun. Great movie. I mean, this is what you want from like an action movie. It's just kind of fast-paced. There's not really too much kind of time spent on exposition. It doesn't really have a strong story as much of like John Woo movies. This was just kind of like a show reel for him to kind of like, I can make a successful Hollywood movie. He went on to direct films like Broken Arrow, which was a very safe studio movie for him, which kind of allowed him to have more creative control on his future films like Face Off, even Mission Impossible 2, which was also very curbed in by studios. And then, just the last couple of movies of his that weren't really too well. I might do a video on like ranking John Woo's American output and see how that falls, because he's actually back to making another Hollywood movie since the dire and abysmal Paycheck, no pun intended, called Silent Night, which is I think it's starring Joel Kinnaman. And be looking forward to seeing the maestro come back to his to Hollywood and see how he's fared and how he's changed really, and whether it's going to be hopefully it's going to be a good movie. 38 is Mission Impossible Fallout. I believe this is the 6th movie in the franchise from 2018, directed by Christopher McQuarrie, starring Tom Cruise, Henry Cavill, Simon Pegg, Rebecca Ferguson, Angela Bassett, Alec Baldwin, Ving Rhames, the usual, so many people. And this time Ethan Hunt is on the hunt. Again, another pun not really intended, of a terrorist known as Mr. Lark, and he teams up with a shady CIA operative played by Henry Cavill, who seems to have different motives, and eventually landing Ethan Hunt in another spot of trouble where he's disavowed and he's on the run. And of course Tom Cruise runs like he does in all of his films. From what I don't really want to say. But he runs, he flies and everything. But this film, I would say definitely, it was actually the strongest out of all the Mission Impossible films. Now, normally when it came to the Mission Impossible franchise, they've always had a different director for each movie, up until I think it was the 5th one. And then since then it's been Christopher McQuarrie, and he's actually directing the next 2, which are going to be the final installments in the actual franchise. And the first one had Brian De Palma, second was John Woo, third was J.J. Abrams, fourth was Brad Bird, and then Christopher McQuarrie came in at number 5, it's number 6, the rest. But this one, I would say, is definitely, this was actually the best out of the franchise so far. And in terms of like the action set pieces, like the car chases, the motorcycle chases, and even like the chase sequence between Tom Cruise and Henry Cavill, especially where Tom Cruise actually, you see him kind of break his foot when he jumps for a building and it kind of hits his foot against he's grabbing on the ledge and you just kind of see his foot kind of just twist. And apparently he was even covered on a TV show as well, showing his interview. He was kind of explaining how he did actually break his foot, but he kind of he was limping afterwards, but he carried on. And I'm thinking that's like Jackie Chan level, the dedication from the Hollywood star. Pretty good. But definitely, this film was great. The cast seemed to have like a very natural chemistry, and they all seem to kind of have a very kind of like good understanding of their roles, and the way that they're able to actually even develop the characters throughout the films. But it just seems to be like a great kind of visual treat. That's actually the one big Hollywood franchise when it comes to action movies I'm actually really excited for. Like, it always seems to be a great kick-ass action movie whenever like a Mission Impossible movie comes out. And I'll be looking forward to seeing the other 2. I know the recent one, the next one come out, some of the shooting did take place in my hometown Birmingham, represent. It's going to be a great movie, and I can't wait to see it. So far they've directed some great movies have actually been shot in Birmingham so far. Ready Player One by Steven Spielberg. I'm a huge science fiction fan, so they had Kingsman, the second one, the second Kingsman movie. And they've got the Mission Impossible movies. I think there's been quite a few other stuff, the Hollywood stuff, that's actually been shot around Birmingham. Number 37 is Breaking News, 2004 Hong Kong movie directed by Johnny To, starring Nick Cheung, Kelly Chen, Richie Jen. There's also supporting roles from Lam Suet and even a guest appearance by Simon Yam. This film stars Richie Jen as a charismatic kind of like a leader of a gang of robbers from mainland China who have just robbed a bank, and Nick Cheung plays a police officer with his aging partner who decide to kind of apprehend these criminals. And what takes place is probably one of the best Steadicam long shots ever done, committed on cinema. Like a shootout, which kind of the whole shot itself, the opening sequence is like literally just one long camera shot, which involves into a shootout, shot on one camera, no edits or anything, up until one certain point. But then that itself, I mean, that's worthy of an award. It's just so perfectly done. I mean, it's kind of like if Michael Mann had decided to kind of shoot that scene in Heat, just with one camera moving around kind of scene. That's the kind of vibe I got from like the sound effects and everything. But of course, the police officers, a beat cop gets humiliated, and the media blow it out of proportion. So Kelly Chen, who's a policewoman who decides to kind of suggest the idea to his superiors that we need to kind of like use the media to kind of convince the public that they're on our side. And what happens is when the robbers take a apartment building hostage, chaos ensues, and then the media, you see what they're trying to present to the public and what's actually happening between the lines, from how the cops are feeling and how the criminals are, what their reasons are, motives, and it kind of provides a very layered story. I mean, from like what seems like a very generic action film, peppered with like really great intense action sequences and great just great cinematography. I mean, Johnny To himself is a master, and he makes great movies regardless. Finally, 36 is Die Hard with a Vengeance, 1995, directed by John McTiernan, starring Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, and Jeremy Irons. Yes, the original director came back from the first Die Hard, because the second was Rennie Harlin, and then John McTiernan decided to direct the third one, which I would say is the second best in the whole franchise, and after the first. And this time John McClane is targeted by a mysterious stranger named, just going by the name of Mr. Simon, or Simon, who is making Bruce Willis kind of do all these kind of dangerous, life-threatening kind of things, like for example tasks that he kind of places to stop bombs going off in the city. And this kind of lands him in a rather tongue-in-cheek situation, which he kind of becomes embroiled with a man named Zeus, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who kind of teams up with John McClane, and they both kind of go around the city trying to stop bombs going off. But then, the criminal seems to have different motives and the reasons why he's actually gone. Again, this was actually awesome, and this was like, when it came out, this is what you call a classic Hollywood blockbuster. I mean, we don't get these kind of movies anymore. I mean, it was like what they call an R-rated action movie, filled with some ridiculously insane kind of stunts and set pieces, explosions, and Bruce Willis just doing his usual badass John McClane kind of like role. This was great. I mean, this was actually really good. Jeremy Irons was really great as the mysterious Simon, who's actually got a better reason why he wants to actually target particularly John McClane. And those of you who have seen it, you know why. And the fact that it kind of links back to like John McClane's past, which is like his past actually just come back to bite him in his ass, and just what builds for like something, one of the most entertaining action movies of the 90s. I would say this is actually one of the last few like hurrahs of like the kind of action movies that were being made in the 80s up until the 90s. This is one of the last ones of like the classic kind of like big Hollywood action movies, and it was just fantastic. It's just really kind of like one of those films that just stood out. And I would definitely say, I mean, I know some of the critics are saying, it's not really as good as the first two, but I would say it's better than the second one. I liked the second one. I mean, I would say the three Die Hard movies, for me, when Die Hard was a trilogy, it was definitely the best action trilogy out there. I mean, it was, but fourth one, it wasn't too bad. Fifth, let's just not go there. It was absolutely atrocious. That was just like not needed. It's just a desperate cash in, and it was just a really bad idea. I mean, come on, when you see a tagline saying "Yippee-ki-yay, Mother Russia," you know it's not going to be really that good. And yeah, I guess that's it. That's my my pick for the top 50 action movies, numbers 40 to 36. And yeah, hopefully, yeah, I will be going through the rest of the list, and we will be covering more movies. And I would say, I think the list just keeps on getting better for me. I mean, especially with the fact that, you know, these are the movies that I love. I mean, talking about 50 of them that I actually absolutely love. And I'm really looking forward to kind of like just discussing more about these movies and kind of just sharing my appreciation for them. Right, again, don't forget to follow me on Instagram, check out my other videos, and subscribe if you haven't, man. You know, help a man out, man. Help a man out.